here to speak about scrapers, scraper planes specifically. A scraper is typically used when you have a high level of figure to the board and a tendency for tear out, or if you're prepping for a specific finish. The advantage of a scraper plane over a card scraper is the flat sole. When working with a scraper, you typically flex the blade. Therefore, you leave a scalloped surface on the workpiece. The flat sole of the plane eliminates that problem. There are 3 sizes here and 2 types: a fixed blade scraper plane and 2 adjustable angle scraper planes. The larger plane is the number 112. The smaller is the number 212. Number 212 is available in iron and bronze for a little extra weight. You'll find when working with the adjustable angle planes that you typically set the angle to very close to the same angle as the fixed one, which is 15 degrees off of 90. Let's look a little more closely at the planes. The adjustable angle scraper planes have the knob and handle like a traditional bench plane, a cap iron, and a frog. The frog is adjustable. To change the angle, you adjust these spin wheels. The blade is considerably thicker than the blade on a traditional scraper plane. This means you don't have to turn a burr or a hook on the blade to make it function. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. The number 85, or Cabinetmakers scraper, has a rabbiting blade. This is handy when working into the corner of a cabinet. You're also able to pivot the handles on the plane so that when working into the corner of a cabinet, you don't bang your knuckles. It's also possible to get a tooth blade for the scraper planes. Tooth blades are traditionally used in scraper planes for prepping for veneer, roughing the substrate to provide more glue surface when applying the veneer. You can also use them in a situation like this panel, where it's highly figured material, but didn't have to remove a lot of material to even up the glue joints. Anytime you're working in material that has a tendency to tear, but you don't need to take a lot of material, you can use a tooth blade. There are tooth blades available for all the types of plane. There are also 2 different toothings available: an 18 tooth per inch and a 25 tooth per inch. The 18 TPI, which is what's here, is best suited to roughing. The 25 TPI is best suited as a veneer prep. I've applied a secondary bevel to this blade rather than turning a hook or creating a burr. We recommend treating these just like any other plane iron. The only difference is that it's ground at 45 degrees rather than 25 degrees. You'll find that with a highly polished secondary bevel, you can take a beautiful cut. Once you have a sharp edge, the tool is simple to set up. With the blade sharp and ready to work, we need to insert it back into the tool. Both the 112 and the 212 have an adjustable angle frog, so you can position the blade at any angle you like. You change the angle by adjusting these 2 spin wheels. To determine the angle that I want to set the frog at, I'll run the blade like I would a card scraper on a test block. There'll be an angle where it feels good. That's the angle I want to match with the frog. I hold the blade as close to that angle as I can, reposition the frog, and then it's very important that you tighten down the spin wheels as much as possible so you don't get vibration and therefore chatter in the cut. Clean off any debris from your test piece and reinsert the blade into the tool. I always put it in from the bottom so I don't damage the cutting edge, and make sure that the bevel is facing to the rear of the plane, towards the handle. A quick way to tell if you've inserted the blade properly is the Lie-Nielsen stamp on the blade. If that is facing the front knob, you know that the blade is in properly. Set your depth of cut off of a flat test piece. Make sure the tool is referenced solidly onto the piece, and then pressure down in the center of the blade will give you your cut. And it's important to remember that a scraper plane is designed to take 1/1000th or less in material, so you don't need a terribly deep cut at all. Once you have the depth set, take a test pass. Very often, you end up with the cut slightly skewed. Make sure there's no debris on your test piece. And remembering which side was cutting heavy, I use a small 4-ounce cross-peen hammer to make a subtle adjustment. I'm going to tap on the side that's cutting less. That brings the blade into parallel. Take another test cut. Now it's cutting evenly, but I noticed some chatter in the cut. I can correct that by flattening the angle. Simply loosen the rear spin wheel and bring that blade forward slightly. In changing the angle, you will need to reset your depth of cut. Pressure down again. Test pass. It's cutting evenly. And that tool is ready to work with. The number 85, or Cabinetmakers scraper, has a few subtle differences than the number 112 and the number 212. There is no adjustment to the angle, and it has a full width blade. In setting up, it's important that the blade is slightly proud on both sides. Because you can't adjust the angle, setup is very simple. You reference off the test block and pressure down in the center of the blade should give you your depth. Make sure the blade is slightly proud on both sides. Take your test cut. It's cutting a little heavy on the one side. A tap with the hammer evens out the cut, and that plane is ready to work with. The number 212 has the same setup characteristics as the 112.